Right. Hey, what's happening? Doug Cunnington here, and I'm going to go over some guest posting tips today. Decided to just hop in and go live for a few minutes. Hopefully you could hear me. Let me know in the chat. I just scheduled this a little bit ago, just a few minutes ago, so there may not be a ton of people hopping on right away. And I think hopefully I can hear myself. Let me just make sure. It's always good to double check. It looks like I could be quiet. I disconnected the microphone earlier, so I need to double check. It always resets things. So let me just make sure. It looks like it could be working okay. It's always hard to tell though. All right, Valen, what's going on? Oh, Mohammed's on. No, there's some more people filing in. Can you hear me out there? Can you hear me? It's always hard to tell, and I'm having, for some reason, I can't hear myself, but maybe you could hear me. So let me know in the chat. Last week I did a live stream and I showed how to find like guest posting opportunities. So this is kind of like on top of that. So I see myself moving on the screen, but I cannot hear myself. So I am waiting to make sure. May have to edit it. Okay, Valen says, yep, you can hear me. So hopefully that is the case. Hopefully we'll see other people say, yeah, we can hear you. So I'm gonna go over some tips. And I was reading, I was actually doing a little research ahead of time, and I found this guy's site, Adam Envoy, I think is his name, and I will give him a shout out, Adam Envoy. And I found a site searching for guest posting tips, but also I've seen him around. And I was like, it's a pretty good blog. He sort of came out of nowhere and he's ranking for a ton of stuff. So check that out. I mean, if you just Google Adam Envoy, that's E-N-F-R-O-Y. You should be able to find his blog and all his stuff out there. So check it out. And thanks, Mohammed Valen, for confirming that you could hear me. Much appreciated. So if you do have questions about guest posting, let me know. I will definitely field those. I'm going to go over just a handful of tips that should be helpful. I have done a lot of guest posting, both for my affiliate sites and for Niche Site Project. It takes a lot of time, I'll be honest with you. I have a couple friends who are working on guest posting campaigns right now for their internet marketing blogs as well. And there are, I got to tell you, there are a ton of places you can guest post, but it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and it's one of those things where you may not see the results right away. It could take some time for everything to pan out. I'm sure there's better ways to do things, but at some point in time I was like, oh man, it's so much work to do these guest posts. I'm just going to pump the brakes a little bit, and it's been okay, but I'm sure things would have been and probably rank for more stuff if I was continually building links. It just gets more traffic in as long as they're high quality blogs that you're posting on. So quick shout out to OneLittleWeb, which is the sponsor for today's live stream. I'm going to switch cameras here if I can. Let's see if I can do that. So OneLittleWeb, they switch cameras. It's not as beautiful on this other camera here, but OneLittleWeb has sponsored this live stream, and we do appreciate it. They're a guest posting agency. I've tested out a couple backlinks, a couple guest posts, and I got a couple backlinks from them, and it's been a great experience so far. They have a special offer for you where you can get a free DA40 plus backlink when you order a DA50 plus backlink. So there's a link in the description here. If you go to onelittleweb.com/Doug, D-O-U-G, then you can check that out. It's pretty clear exactly what you get. You can look at their FAQs and get a better idea of any of the other details that you may have or questions that you may have about the details. You could check them out there at OneLittleWeb. Once you order, you'll get an email from an account manager. You'll be able to put in your specific URL that you want to link to, along with the anchor text, and they should deliver, I believe, within something like 20 to 30 days. It's all in the FAQs there, so thanks to OneLittleWeb, I appreciate it. And even if you're not in the market to get a guest post in the near future, let them know that you appreciate them sponsoring. It does help me out in the long run. So, and it helps you out because I can produce more content. So let's get to some of these tips that I want to tell you about here. So number one, you need to understand what information and what value you can bring to the audience. There's Georgie back there making noise. So basically, you need to have some sort of alignment with the information that you have so that you could help the audience. Basically, if you have some expertise or interest, that'll be good because then you'll be able to write an article. Sometimes the writing style can be important as well. So if you're writing in a very casual way, using a specific sort of like lingo and jargon and stuff like that, and it doesn't match up with the blog, then you're going to have to make it match. And I'm laughing. Georgie's at my feet like pawing at me, trying to get my attention. I wish we need a Georgie cam down there so everyone can see her. And the thing is, if you're able to line up the topic along with your expertise and the writing style, you have a pretty good chance of getting your guest post published on the blog. Now, last week we were looking for and prospecting for sites that are literally soliciting your input for guest posts. They have like a Write For Us page. So if you missed it last week, do check that out. And in my case, for example, I can be specific here. In my case, when I'm posting for Niche Site Project, I have specific expertise in a few areas, but keyword research is kind of a slam dunk because I've talked about keyword research a lot. I have a lot of different references that I can point people towards where I'm like, hey, I've talked about keyword research and I have stuff to say about it. I also have done YouTube extensively. I've produced a lot of content. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've grown my channel from nothing like everyone does. They all start at zero. And basically, people want to know about those topics. They are kind of universal in some ways. So even if I'm approaching a mom or parenting blogger, and they may not be super interested in the specific stuff that I have talked about on Niche Site Project from a affiliate marketing perspective, I can say, hey, your audience is probably interested in YouTube and keyword research. Can I write a guest post on what I've done with YouTube and how it might apply to your audience? So you can bridge the gap. You can pretty readily bridge the gap there. So that's one thing to look out for. You can connect some dots, and we talked about some of that last week too. So once you understand like your value and what you could bring to the table, you can start prospecting. There's a lot of ways to do this. You can look like we did last week, look for sites that have Write For Us pages, or another way to tackle this is to find sites that have published guest posts by certain people. So maybe you could look at your peers or people that are ahead of you by 1, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, and see where they have guest posted in the past. It's possible that if a site allows guest posts from people that are like you or that you want to be like, you might be able to pitch them with some topic. Again, it really helps if you have a story to tell. So as I mentioned, because I have some case study information on, say, affiliate marketing and YouTube and creating YouTube videos, I can bring unique information that other people don't have because I have case study information. A lot of times, case study information can make for really good headlines. People want to have shareable content on their site, and it sure is helpful if there's like some specific headline. Oh man, I got a cough. I got a tickle in my throat. It's like I just ate some popcorn or something. So anyway, if you have a case study or some specific data that you're able to share, that could be a huge leg up, because really no one else can share your case study data better than you. So if you have something like that, you're kind of a shoo-in. So like I said, you could prospect by finding other people that have gone through guest posting campaigns and kind of follow in their footsteps. So I mentioned earlier some of the tips that I'm mentioning here from Adam Infroy. He's done a lot of guest posting. So one thing I could do is check out where he is guest posted and just say, hey, I saw you posted some stuff from Adam. I've been featured on CNBC. I've posted on SEMrush and KW Finder. I'd like to write a keyword research article for you in this area. I mean, it totally makes sense. By the way, as an aside, I could use that same pitch for podcasts too. Hey, I saw you interviewed, just going to make it up, Pat Flynn, and I could talk about keyword research as it relates to affiliate marketing. And by the way, I've been featured in these 3 other places. I sure would like to be on your podcast, and then see where it goes. Not everyone's going to go for it. I mean, I would say if you get a 10% success rate, that's not bad, because I could tell you it's probably not hard to find, a couple hundred of these, and they add up over time, of course. And as you get better, as you are featured in different places, you're probably going to be able to level up, and maybe sites that weren't going to feature you or work with you before, then maybe they will now. All right. Moving on, you should, of course, have some initial contact with people. And thanks, I see some more folks are filtering in, and I will answer some questions when they come in here, and I'm going to save them for the end, because it looks like the questions that people are asking don't necessarily fit exactly with what I'm talking about right at this second. So I will answer the questions at the end. Thanks everyone for hopping on. And by the way, I know there's more and more people joining. This segment is sponsored by OneLittleWeb, so much appreciated. Check out their guest posting service. There's a link in the description here. So once you have a list of sites that you want to contact, and I would say, you don't have to find like 1,000 of them on the first day. You don't have to find 100 on the first day. Try to find 10 or 20 of them, something manageable, and pull together a list, put together the contact info. A lot of times, and depending on how you're searching for this, you may be able to find a submission form. So in that case, you see exactly where you can submit the information. You don't have to do any like pre-networking if you don't want to. However, I know that the more you can try to connect with people, the more you're able to, build a relationship ahead of time. You have a much better chance of getting your pitch accepted. Now, one word of caution is if you find the Right For Us page and they require you to submit the full article before they accept the pitch or the title or anything, I would probably avoid it. And that's pretty common. I mean, it doesn't hurt them at all. They just get the full article right away. If they like it, they can publish it. If not, then they don't have to do anything. But for you, it's a huge waste of time. It's a huge waste of time. So I would probably only submit pitches for places that allow you to pitch, and they don't force you to submit the whole article before they accept the article title. If that makes sense. Just saves you a lot of work, saves you a lot of time, and there's plenty of other opportunities out there. So if you don't have like a submission form for the pitch, and sometimes they'll allow you to, put in like 3 pitches, for example. But if there's nothing like that and you have to actually email the person, it's probably a good idea to start building the relationship. And it could be through like LinkedIn. You could send them a message, connect on LinkedIn, maybe share some of their stuff. And the whole idea here is with the networking, you're going to try to get on the person's good side. I mean, there's no beating around the bush. You want to share some of their stuff. You want to be nice to them. You want them to like you. If they like you, they're a lot more likely to work with you in the form of guest posting or humoring your pitch, right? Maybe you pitch something and it sucks, right? You thought it was a good idea, you pitched it, and they're like, it's not that great. Could you write this instead? Like, we have an idea in this topic area. It seems like it's a good match for you. Why don't you write that one instead of the silly idea that you proposed? So if they like you, they're a lot more likely to just kind of work with you. So if you can, network ahead of time, share their stuff, be nice, and then you may, it's going to be a better deal all the way around. So I would say one of the biggest tips, and then I'll answer some questions here. One of the biggest tips is in your pitch, especially if it's an email where it's sort of free form and you can put whatever you want in there, you should definitely reference your previous work. So if you haven't guest posted before, link to 1 or 2 of your best articles. Maybe, hey Jordy, you okay? Hey. You all right, girl? So link to 1 or 2 of your best articles. Georgie is such a mess. And then they'll see some of your work. If you have guest posted before, link to the top 2 or 3 articles, especially based on like credibility and social proof. So I had a quote in CNBC. So anytime I'm trying to guest post or be seen as an expert, I'm definitely going to say, hey, I was featured on CNBC. Here's the link. I would also, depending on the topic area, reference the most credible authorities in those topic areas. So if I was aiming for keyword research, then I would say, hey, I did a webinar for SEMrush and I've been featured as an expert over on Ahrefs. I also wrote a guest post for, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I've done a few. So I would reference like the highest levels that I can come up with. Oh, guest post for KW Finder. So in the area of keyword research, then I would aim for that one. So if you're able to do that, again, it demonstrates your work, of course. That is very important. But it also adds social proof, credibility, because it can be coming from even bigger sites. So again, if I'm able to say, hey, I got a reference over here at CNBC, that's fantastic. That's exactly the kind of stuff I need. They would see, oh, if CNBC referenced him as an expert, he must be an expert. That goes a very long way. All right, I'm going to bring it back around. So that kind of rounds out the tips, and I know people had questions here. So let me just pop back. If I can figure out how to do it. Hold on, let's see. I don't even have that many windows going on. I just can't find the one I need. There we go. There we go. All right. Will's on. What's going on? And I'll go through, answer some questions here for the crew. All right. Aman says, to rank on Google, is it required that a site has 10,000 words of total articles? No. I've never heard that. I don't think that's true at all. All right, Slowfishin says, you have a new question. What do I think? Is it good or bad to accept guest post on page? How Google looks on pages which accepting guest post? It free content, but All right. I think it's okay to accept guest post if you want to. I would make sure it's really good content. Oh, Valin, what's going on, buddy? A few years ago, I was able to get a guest post just by replying to a general newsletter welcome email. After a few polite replies, the website owner offered me the opportunity to write for their blog. Boom. All right, so that totally proves the hey, be cool, be nice, and you may land a guest post. That's awesome, Valin. Good to hear it. Oh, Derek's on as well. Good to see ya. Got Money Lab over there. And David. So yeah, Matt Giovanisi in the house. Any questions on guest posting out there? Any questions at all? Just hitting them pretty quick today. And little shout out to Alex at WP Eagle. He's doing a live stream later today. I'm going to be joining him. It's sort of his Christmas roundup. I think there's going to be a lot of guests. I'm going to be in there around the first hour or so. So do check that out. I think a lot of people are that are on this, subscribe to this channel. You already know Alex and WP Eagle. So yeah, check it out. All right, Aman says, I found a DR50 expired domain, but it has Chinese anchor text, so should I buy it or not? I'm going to say no, but if it's a Chinese site, then it would totally make sense for it to have Chinese anchor text, right? But because basically my answer for expired domains is if you're asking a question about expired domains and if you should do something, you probably shouldn't, all right? It indicates you don't know enough yet and you probably shouldn't experiment with expired domains and do more research. So one of the best ways you could tell though if an expired domain has been abused is if there's weird anchor text. So if you see weird anchor text, then that probably means it's been abused. All right. With guest posting, and just curious, anyone else have experience out there with guest posting, good or bad? Because one thing I hear some people are like, hey, I've done guest posting and it didn't work. And then when I ask a few more questions like, oh, how many guest posts did you get? What were they good? A lot of times what happens is they did like 2 guest posts and they really didn't give it a chance. And it's not really surprising on really anything where you're like, hey, I just tried it. I tried it one time and it didn't work. So, I mean, you do have to give it a chance. Now, one thing that I mentioned earlier is a friend of mine is doing like a guest posting campaign. He's gotten a lot of guest posts this year. And I think his traffic is creeping up a little bit and his metrics are going up tremendously, but I don't think he's really got nearly as much traction as he thought. Now, it could be one of those situations where it's a slow impact time. It takes a little while for all this to come around. You know, maybe it takes a year and it's one of those things where you get a little traction initially, kind of plateau for a while, and then you're about to make a big jump, but you don't know because you stopped too soon. And frankly, I mean, you don't know what's going to happen on the other side anyway. So anyway, it's one of those things where I think you do have to give it time, but you know, if it's not working, then you probably have to adjust how you're doing it. Derek says, what are your feelings on website owners requesting payment? So I'll give you the full range because my feeling is that is the supply and demand. Basically, they see that they have a valuable asset and they could charge money because they're getting like 5 emails a day from people asking them to guest post. So clearly they have something people want. So I would look at, I think what you're really asking, Derek, is should you pay it? And I think you should analyze the site, and if it's really relevant, if it really makes sense, and it looks like there's not a site that's filled with all these clearly paid for guest posts, then maybe it's okay to pay for it. Google won't like it. That's against the terms of service. You're breaking the rules. They're breaking the rules. But basically, it's impossible to trace, right? Some people are like, Google's going to find out. I don't know how the fuck Google's going to find that out. I mean, it's kind of impossible. unless someone's like, I mean, I think if you even like had the receipts of like people PayPaling you money and you sent it in, you were like, hey, this site paid for it. Like, I don't even know if they would do anything with that, because that'd be easy enough to fake. That'd be pretty easy to fake. Okay, Matt says you've never done guest posting. You wish you had something more to offer. And then Valin says, can I share a few tips between the differences of using an agency for guest posts versus doing all the research yourself? Can you automate the process in a way, automate the research when you're doing it yourself? Do you need to supply the article when you're working with an agency? Okay. All right. So basically, if you use an agency, it's going to cost like 10 times more. It's going to cost a ton more, and it's going to be a lot easier. So you're definitely trading time for money if you're doing it. I mean, basically you could buy your way out of that problem and get decent guest posts. Now, the thing is, if you're doing the research yourself, you really can ensure the highest level of quality. Now, one thing that I see over and over again, I mean, there's a ton of agencies, right? I'm working with OneLittleWeb, who sponsored this. There's other agencies that do similar work, and just a ton of people that sort of do this underground, or not on the same level, and they'll just like send out emails like, hey, I have 20 sites. Do you want links to them? Just let me know. And they'll sell you 20 links in like one swoop. The problem is, if you work with an agency, you're not really sure how great all of the links are, right? You can check them, of course, and then come back and say, well, it looks like these are a little crappy, even though the metrics are good. So if you're doing the research yourself and you're doing the outreach yourself, you really can ensure the highest quality. It takes forever, though. It takes forever, and you get rejected almost constantly. And then you ask, can you automate the process when you're doing it yourself? You sort of can. I mean, you can hire people to do the research for you. You can give them some criteria. They can find the websites. They can find the contact information for you. And then they can, even send you, I guess, like their social info, right? Their social media links and stuff like that. So you can build the relationship. So you can outsource pieces of it for sure. You can actually outsource the article too, right? So you can send the emails, you can outsource the article, you can outsource the research, so that you're really only doing the email correspondence. As far as working with an agency, usually the agency supplies the article. You don't have to do that. So it's so expensive. Like if you go to OneLittleWeb, it's going to be cheaper than, say, the Hoth. The Hoth is a little more expensive. You can look around more, and depending on who the agency is targeting as their audience, you'll see like different prices. So if they're targeting like big corporations, they may be charging like 10 times more, and they're offering more like a overall marketing plan, content promotion overall. But if you go to like OneLittleWeb, they're trying to work with people like us. So, and it's always tough. Like even the big companies may be doing, they may just have like a database of bloggers that they can contact, and there's no like pure outreach. All right, and then Matt says, what's the best source to find guest posting opportunities, like Ahrefs? It depends on what you're aiming for, but Ahrefs would be a good place to start. Like Matt, if you were looking to do guest posting, I mean, because you're known in the industry, right? Like you probably can say, hey, I want to guest post. I'm going to reach out to some of my friends and then see if I could guest post on their sites. Or, right, another thing, like you can see where like Nick Loper, Spencer Hawes, and myself have guest posted in the past and say, hey, I've been on these shows before. I want to talk about this topic. I'm an expert in this topic, and you can find all the places that Nick, Spencer, and I have guest posted in the past or been like a podcast guest, and then just go reach out there. So with Hrefs, of course, you can find places where people have linked and sort through all that, and you have all the metrics right there, and that would be totally fine too. You can filter through a lot of the noise and set up filters. You can set up filters so you're like, oh, I'm only looking at domain rating of 60 or higher, for example. All right. And follow up, Matt says, do you just Google for that information? Yeah. Just Google. And last week when I did the live stream where it's like finding guest posting opportunities, literally you just use different footprints that you could look for. And like I said, because you have a blog and you have a podcast, you could sort of like short circuit the process. It makes it a lot easier, really. All right, we're going to wrap it up. A few more questions here. Arif says, hope you're doing good. I want to start guest posting. Talk about its prerequisites. Thanks a lot. All right, man, I'm not really sure what you're asking. I want to start guest posting. Talk about its prerequisites. The hard part for me doing the live streams and like answering questions is I'm an asshole. So the prerequisite is like, you should have a blog, but you don't have to have a blog. You literally can just have an email account to start emailing people and say, hey, I want to guest post, and then, go from there. But that's not really what you're asking. Really, I think, I'm not really sure, man. I don't know what you're asking about. It's all right, Georgie. Hey, you're all right. Hey, she came in here. She's the one that wanted to come in here. Hey, get out of here. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, so Arif, if you want to ask a follow-up about like what you're really looking for, basically you need to find some people that are in your topic area that would allow you to guest post. Like that's kind of the idea. Really, all you need is a desire to want to guest post, and then you hunt for those guest posts, and then you ask to do it, and then you send them the content, and that's it. But again, I know that's not really what you're asking. It's just I don't know why you asked that. I guess it's very hard to just be real, because I know, you're here, you showed up, you're like, hey man, I do want to ask a question, but I don't know the context or the reference point where some people join in. So, for example, if you just joined, I may have answered exactly what you were looking for at the very beginning of this. But when you ask here, I'm just like, no, I'm not really sure. So anyway, I end up talking myself into a circle, and then I get way off topic where I was like covering a couple things, and then I start talking about some random stuff with guest posting, and like, why are we even here, So, but basically, all right. And Arif didn't follow up. So, and I think sometimes people are just like, hey, I just want to mess with Doug a little bit. I'm just going to ask a question. Oh, Adrian's on. What's up? Derek says, thank you. Darcy says, are you still using Amazon Associates after they cut commissions? The answer is yes. And all right. I guess I can recap for Arif's benefit here. Just a quick recap. So understand where your expertise lies, within your niche. Reach out to people that are in your niche. They don't have to have anything specific listed. They maybe don't even have any guest posts that they've ever published before. I've actually landed a few of those where the timing was just right. I started making some friendly gestures to some bloggers by commenting on their blog, sending them some emails, and they were about to go on vacation. I was like, hey, I'd like to guest post if you were ever interested. And they were like, yes, I actually need to publish some content in like 3 weeks. I'm going out of town. I'm not going to have time. So yeah, I would love to publish it. And it was the first guest post. I don't even know if they published any more guest posts ever. Once you have some ideas on what value you can add because you're an expert in that area, make a list of different blogs that you want to check out, maybe pitch your idea to them. A great way to do it, talking about what Matt and I were going back and forth on here, you can check what other guest posts your peers, or if you don't have any peers yet and you're just getting started, where do you want to be in a few years? Look at those people and then see where they've guest posted in the past. You may not be able to land those yet, but it's a good place to start, and then you start connecting some dots and you see, oh, there's some other people that guest posted on those sites that are more my level, and then you're able to approach them. When you do your outreach, one of the best things you can do is say, here's where I've guest posted before. Put your biggest features on there so they can go and see, provide social proof, and it shows the work that you can do. If you haven't guest posted anywhere yet, then link to your best content on your own site, and at least they'll see what kind of work you can do. And I think that covers it. So any other questions out there before we finish up? Funny thing, I got a couple cameras. I got this, I have my crappy webcam, which is just, on my MacBook here, and the good camera, but I forgot my AC adapter for my camera, so I'm just running off battery right now. Pretty good battery life considering. I was surprised. All right, and this is final comment. Any other questions we'll hop on, but Matt says Steph did a guest post once that went viral. It was a perfect match that ended up getting 1,500 subscribers in a day. Her site blew up. That's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, hard time replicating after trying. That sounds, anything viral is almost, it's almost impossible to make that happen again. It's like just the sheer volume of like trying stuff out and accidentally getting lucky. I don't think, for all my YouTube videos and other stuff, I've never had anything go viral. I've had a couple accidental, I think I had a Pinterest thing go viral, but yeah, I'm more of a workhorse and stubborn and just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And finally, we'll end with a compliment, which is the best way to do it. What camera are you using that's looking nice? Very sharp, very sharp. I have the Canon EOS or EOS. I don't know. I usually say EOS, but I've heard people say EOS. RP, got the RP, and then the lens is the key. So I have the 35 millimeter f1.8, and I have it set on 1.8, so it's just it looks beautiful. Using the webcam, it's just way too dark in here, but I'm kind of, obviously there's a window over there, and it's not direct light or anything, but ends up looking pretty good. And there's a mess behind me, but you can't really tell so much. Makes a huge difference. All right. Oh, and I see Muhammad ask a couple things too. Yesterday I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you said new Amazon affiliate programs in Sweden. Yeah. And I speak Arabic, so I thought I might take something to target. Da-da-da. Keyword research. Do I have any? Okay. basically, I haven't done that specifically, Mohammed. So, I'll generalize the question. Mohammed is able to publish different sites in different languages. He says the keyword research is tough. Now, I would probably go for it anyway. I think in some of the new geographies that Amazon is starting associates programs, they have better commission rates. So even if you have a smaller search volume, it may not matter. The search volumes may also be, pretty big. The competition could be a lot lower. So I would say you're going to have to adapt. I can't tell you what search volumes to look for. It turns out you may be able to go after much lower search volumes or much higher search volumes, like comparatively speaking, but you would go lower search volume. So let's say you can go after something that's 5,000 searches a month in that local geography, but maybe in the US, it's like 20,000. But 5,000 is actually still, quite a lot, and it may be way less competitive in other geographies versus like the US or, English speaking geographies. All right. Well, I'm going to head out for now. I do have to join another live stream. Alex Cooper, WP Eagle. So if you're sticking around, I think he's starting up in like an hour. I'm going to go take a break. And actually, I just I got some beers downstairs, so I may bring a beer up to drink during the live stream because it'll be it's the evening in the UK. So I'm pretty sure Alex will have some kind of drink. But thanks for hopping on short notice. We'll catch you around YouTube. See you later.